So, welcome everyone to yoga at Bonnevaux. I hope you're enjoying winter or summer, morning or evening, whatever time it may be. And what I'd like to look at today is mostly standing poses. And what I would love is that nobody gets all uptight or complicated about the way the shapes work out and what's right and what's wrong. Usually when we stand up on our own 2 feet and start to move or copy someone, we increase the sense of complexity and the feeling that we're going to get it wrong. But it's all a sense and a feeling. And it's because we're standing and because our postural pattern is a hugely wonderfully complex thing, and it's going to feel different from mine or from somebody else who's practicing with you. And so we get very complicated. And usually when we sit and then when we lie down, things become less and less complicated. In fact, if you're ever having an argument with someone and you're thinking to yourself, this is crazy, why are we arguing? Lie down on your side and look at them and try and continue arguing. And you will be surprised. The whole thing will change because you're no longer standing, you're no longer in your posture. It's different. So it's the same thing happens with the standing poses, and they start sounding so complicated, and they're not. They're not. And we're going to use all the basic vocabulary that we've been using almost a year now. Almost a year we started these movement virus classes. The movement and the relaxing of the pelvic floor and the releasing of the back of the tongue is out there making that other virus nothing. Nothing. So I'm giving you time to go get a chair while I'm being stupid. And you're going to need a chair, stable chair somewhere on your mat. Just let me know when you got your chair. Okay, so so it's a prop. And remember, you are not made for the prop. The prop is made for you. So use props and use them well. Don't get uptight. Don't feel like something's wrong. The thing you're using may be the wrong size or the wrong shape. So what we're going to do first of all is stand. Maybe I'm going to stand a little bit closer. And I'm just going to touch down the front of my body. Yeah, just remembering that I'm a weighted being in this world. We bear our weight in the world and on so many levels. And it's so wonderful. Touch down my back, especially here where your lower back curves, just after the ribs, where your kidneys are, just touching. Yeah. Just let your pelvis and trunk move however they like to move. There's no right way. Down over the bum, or down over the knobbly edges of your pelvis legs. Yeah. Just letting myself hang forward. And just letting myself open up, open to the sky, a little bit back, nothing serious, nothing major on the lower back. And just connecting the bending forward with the bending back by swiveling. Yeah, and so all this while because I'm moving, because I'm not worrying about yoga, or my body, or am I getting it right, or have I advanced since last time? Because I'm just moving and doodling and playing, I am quite quickly can tune into whatever habits I have of holding myself in levitation, holding my breath, holding myself up or down, I start to notice, yeah, that's me. And, that's wonderful and lovely, just me. And as I notice, I begin to feel that I can be on my feet, that I can be in the weight of my torso, in the weight of my pelvis, down my legs, into my feet. There's no right way. There's no special way to sense this. I've met so many people who said, well, I went to yoga and the teacher kept saying, do you feel this? And do you feel, I didn't feel anything. So I thought, I'm so stupid and it's not for me. And they stopped. But actually, the person who's expressing has a completely different embodied reality and from yours. So you may be totally enjoying moving without all the sensations and all the connections and all the stuff that they may be feeling and talking about. So just know whatever you feel, even if it's zero, that you're dropping to the floor, that you're on the floor, that you're not floating away. Oh, I can feel my breath deepening. So for me, quite quickly, there starts to be a sense of a deep world. It goes away from the little world, before class, I was finishing some emails, so this kind of thing. So, or the driving or whatever, the lugging of shopping. So I start to ground, and then in relation to that, I start to open. And it could be the other way for you. You need to open first and feel the day and the bigness of it, and then you ground. But both of those movements come together. We're always rooting, and we're always organizing ourselves up and out and around or returning. You can do this anywhere, anytime. You can do this with social distancing. You can do this in the embrace of a beloved. You can do this in your hermitage. You can do this on the tube or the metro, or wherever you are. Yeah. Finding the ground, finding the sky, no body. It's like this vessel is the first inkling about emptying, which is such a big part of our human journey. Yeah. Okay, so then you've got whatever's in front of you, the chair, the sofa, a table, down and up, roots and wings. And I'm just gonna, we did this last time, I'm just gonna let myself roll. And very quickly, I invite you to release the knees, because if there are any issues, lower back, rib 1 and 2, or neck, that's often where it is, you're just gonna help the body not get stressed. My feet are huge, toes to heel. And then I've got this thing in front of me that I'm just resting on. So I'm using the back of the chair. And you can play without a chair like we did last time, or with. It's the same, but completely different, because here I'm touching the world. I'm touching something. So immediately I get feedback. And the feedback is supplying other information, different from if I was just hanging. You can try. They're both wonderful. And I'm introducing this today, although we've done it before, because if you do have a back injury, it's better to work with feedback and to take your time through support. Through support. So, if anyone was watching you through the window do this, they would think, that person has never done any yoga before. Look at them. They can't even touch their toes. They can barely bend. Gosh, looks like such a disaster. Such a disaster. Little do they know the blessedness of just releasing forward, just playing,
through the weight, completely wasting time, making absolutely no progress in your yoga, with a big smile and drooling, letting the pelvic floor release and open for world peace. Hooray, hooray, hooray. So it's a very deep pose. It's so uncomplicated. The feet are a major participant, whether your heels are on the floor or not. A major participant in all the different shifts and foldings that are happening as you go down. And as you come back up.
So I'm used to putting my hands where there are old habits or injuries. Sometimes I don't think about it specifically, or where I feel lots of sensation. So, yeah, for example, here, just where the back of the iliac crest, the big wings, the butterfly wings of the pelvis, as they come over onto the sacrum, there is this promontory, the posterior superior iliac spine. In fact, it's a wonderful promontory, and if you jiggle around with your thumbs without worrying about what you're finding, you will find it. You will find these two wonderful bumps, and they are part of my pelvis. And they have a very particular feeling. It's like pressing on a door frame. And if you go more to the middle, a little more medial, you will find yourself on something that's completely different. It's like it's up to you. You may feel differently, as I said, but it's more mattressy, more zingy, more sensitive. And that's where the sacrum is, which is the last part of the spine and a key part of the pelvis. The sacrum is this amphibious creature that needs to be able to live in the pelvis leg system and in the spine system. So just feeling back there. Okay. Then I'm going to roll down again. I feel my feet through the sense of weight and the movement. Nobody's watching. I'm just near to myself. Heavy tail, heavy antlers. Yeah, coming through. Just keep adjusting where you want to be, I'm just going to move my pelvis around my feet a little bit, side to side, more back, more front. Yeah. And then again, I'm going to roll through the toe hinge here, this bit here, just before the toes stick out from the mess of the foot. The toes are way up here, right up into here. And I'm just going to let myself hang down. Yeah. Can rest your forehead. You can lean more back. You can lean more forward, like you're moving through these joints. You see where my fingers are. You're moving and you're educating them to bend. We all have a different degree of bend in here, but all of us also lose that bend a little bit. It doesn't matter how much it bends normally, that's your trait, but we all kind of, and we don't want to, you don't want to lose the bend and the life of your toes because you don't use them when you walk. You want to keep this happening. When we walk, if you look at my back foot, there is this moment. We played with this last time. And this moment of bend and wakefulness in the toe and then the push is a huge moment of life for the whole spine. So when we're down here, we want to not just be on the little toe, we want to be able to bend over and regard our toes with profound love, and notice that the regard is mutual. Very good. And then I'm just going to come down. Just going to come down and just release my bended spine. I'm just sagging. My elbows are on the chair and I'm just sagging through across the shoulders. And then I'm just dropping down and be a little closer. There. So some of you may find this a lot more comfortable than child pose, you know, being folded forward with the forehead on the floor. So it's a good thing to remember. Also, if you have eye pressure issues, if you've had whiplashes to the neck, things like that, you may just find that this really helps you. Okay. Just taking a moment just to, I mean, if this is uncomfortable, you may need to pad under your ankles or between your bum and your heels. I'm just taking a moment to really let the weight fold into the folding system of the legs at ankle, knee, and pelvis. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just going to use the chair. I'm going to do it this way. So I've turned the chair. You don't need to do this if you feel stable, but if you want, I'm just showing you, if you're worried about falling over, because we're going to be on one foot, you could work like this, or you could come to the wall, or if you wanted to be, really sure on both sides, you can come to the wall like that. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to stand near enough to the chair so that as you go to lift the leg that's nearest the back of the chair, you don't need to lean too much forward or too much back, that you're dropping through into the feet. And then you go to lift a foot and you kind of have remained over yourself. So we're not doing like that just yet. Just over. Some of us go towards, some of us go away. So try to kind of be in the middle. Yeah, and it's very nice to just take a moment just to feel the weight dropping through this standing leg. So the knee, I'm going to turn towards the knee, and the knee is going to want to turn away with me. It was the same with the lunges last time or the time before. So I'm just going to put my hand on my knee. Yeah. And I'm going to turn, just watch me for a minute. So what you don't want to do is open the hip because you're bracing, and then you don't want to kind of open the hip and then turn, because you will be outside of that articulation. Instead, what you want to do without sagging is you want to kind of drop into this joint. Touch your groin, touch your belly, drop into this place where you folded here. so that then as you turn, it's as if you're letting the leg and the pelvis soften towards each other in there. So there is a softening and a resting in, softening and a resting in. And don't rush, because it's a very powerful articulation. There's so much ligamentous binding and strong muscles, and it's a very clear shape. So the movement is determined also by the shape, so don't rush. But you want to kind of, it's like you're sinking and your leg and your belly are coming towards each other, towards each other, towards each other. So there is a settling also here. There is a being on the feet. Yeah. Nobody's worrying about how far should I have turned, should I be able to see behind me? Because the minute you do that, you're going to pull on this. And what you want is you really want something soft, and you want to be discovering, the things I'm saying, you want to discover them for yourself. So I've just turned a bit more without doing much. It's just that things are allowing. Yeah. So it's interesting, where I am now, I start to feel that across my shoulders, there's something that is saying no. You may find it in your leg or behind your knee or somewhere else, but the river of support that we use when we stand is everywhere. So very often people hurt their sacrum, they do something funny in their lower back, and within half an hour or less, they start to feel funny, wonky things mid-spine or higher. It's because all the muscles climbing up the back start to, run around trying to help you, and you. So it's the same. I have my postural habits and my way of driving and being at the computer and doing whatever I have to do. So I'm doing something very deep here, and I can feel up here that there is not wanting to participate. So we lift the arm. So very often in the standing poses, we're doing something downstairs, and then we're doing something upstairs. And very often the upstairs is a lifting of the torso and all its content off the pelvis and the lumbars. So that's just lifting the arm helps that. Just lifting. Yeah, but I don't want to pull out of this. I'm just as I root, I'm lifting, and I'm allowing this folding, twisting place of hip and pelvis and leg to remain deeply connected and happy. And up I go. And now I'm just gonna bring my hand behind me, still with this feeling of a wing. Yeah. So now I can feel it's very powerful on the other side. And then just let that in. So I've turned a lot more. Yeah, I think I had gone a little bit like this. I'm just recovering that. And I come back, put my feet down, and just go for a little walk. And just feel. Okay. Yeah, so receiving and evaluating the change, the sense of space, so that you have this time to be in the movement you're making. Sometimes it's structured and you're trying to get it right, or trying to compare with what I've said or shown how it works for you. And then there is this time where we receive what's changing. And it's often in between those two, or as we swing from the doing to the sensing and back, that we have accidents of perception where we discover, oh, I didn't realize I was holding, or I just didn't realize. It's memory. And so that's very, very important. So I'm changing sides, which means just making sure I'm not going dyslexic and repeating. No. So I'm going to let myself, what did I do? I was like that. Yeah. So I had brought the leg that's closest to the back of the chair up. That's what I'm doing. It's my left leg. Yeah. And I'm just going to settle over this foot. Try not to look at myself, but to actually be in a growing sense of a new kind of mapping, which is not built on looking at myself, but really sensing and not having the idea through looking that there is a right place. But I'm just kind of sensing, where am I? Am I more back? Am I more forward? It's different from the other side, as it should be, because they're different. Yeah. Arms. This, yeah, beautiful. So for me, it's my right hand. It's going on my left knee. I'm not going to lever, and I'm not going to use my muscles right away to do something. I'm going to put my hand on the knee just to keep the leg stable, my right hand on my left knee. And then I'm actually going to continue to be in my hip articulations, if that's helpful. For me, that's helpful, because eventually, now on the second side, we can talk about this. I want to be in my hip articulation, but I don't want to be crowding my lumbars. I want to be really deep inside the way the head of the femur comes into the acetabulum, and the two kind of, so it would be this way. That's the little cave in the pelvis, acetabulum, and the femur with the bend in the neck and the mild rotation, which is a signature that's different for each human being. And the way that that sits in the pelvis, more high or more low, like that, with the flare of my pelvis. So that amazing bony signature with its ligamentous binding, which all of that signature is me in gravity, my gravity signature. So I don't want to like put the articulation under traction. I want to do what they're meant for, these articulations that bear our weight. They're meant to be like waterfalls pouring into a pool, catching our weight. And then of course they have rebound as well, but that's, I'm not jumping right now here. And then, so I'm giving that space and that being and that folding with my hand. I'm holding the chair, and I'm going to slowly rotate towards my leg. And I don't know if it's different, but my right leg is a lot more turned out. So I'm not going to fix that. And it's much more adducted under me. So it's just catching my attention. And I don't need to change that right now unless it was painful. But it's interesting. Those are the interesting things that you notice, which are part of mapping and remapping. So, and then I'm just going to start to turn. Yeah. So I'm folding here and I'm turning, but actually I very quickly on this side feel on the right side that I'm opening here where my hand is at the back. I'm opening this back area across the gluteals and the all of those structures that are rotating or not rotating. They're called the rotators deep inside there. This is not being externally rotated, but they hold a tone across my butt, deep inside. I'm just noticing that this right leg is really externally rotated and it's like rock, completely different from the other one, which was like a cloud of unknowing. It just let me do. This one is saying, no, I'm in control. I know how to do. I don't move. I'm not going to do. So I'm actually just going to bend forward a little bit and just touch along the back and just let go. And I'm just going to move around a bit. I'm just going to wobble around. Play like this on this side, but then of course, so that you can be free in the future just to play as you start to realize that one leg could be the one that sets everything. It can be the donkey leg, Often we injure one side and the other side becomes the donkey. And then that gets injured just because of all the inhibitions. And then the donkey goes on the other side. So eventually we have a whole herd of donkeys. So we want to de-donkeyfy. Here we go, that's better. So now I can just get my heel out a little. Yeah, rooting down and then lifting up. Yeah, so my left arm has gone up. My right arm is across the knee. I'm holding the knee and touching the chair. And I feel like I want to go like that. So I'm just going to let myself find my vertical. And then my left arm goes out. So something in the middle here isn't moving through here. When I turned the other way, it was more up here on this side, it's here. So you can touch and fiddle. Fiddling is a very profound, ancient activity. Yeah, opening and come back. The breath, the weight, going for a walk, the feet, swing. Okay, so let's use the chair to take because this was a kind of a lunge, not really, but it was a beginning of. So let's just take ourselves into a deeper hip flexion. So I'm going to bring my right leg forward, my left leg forward, sorry. And I'm going to get the knee over the heel. And then just keep that almost vertical and just slide back a little with my other leg. Yeah. And then I'm going to use the chair to support myself in the lunge. So it's different from working with the floor, but I am actually just going to let myself sag for a minute. Just fold and just soften. Huge feet, hands. And then I'm going to start to open up through the spine. So the more I go down and I feel the weight dropping into the foot and the knee, the more I can come up. And the more I go up and find my wings, the more I sense the opposing direction, which is the one of rooting. Yeah. Now, you can use the chair in various ways. One would be as a support that's really holding me, as if I was doing it on the floor. So just let's start with that one. I have the lunge and my arms and hands are preventing me from having to hold my pelvis together. And so I'm just playing with that. So it's giving me a different tonality and tension around the pelvis. It's letting me drop in, drop in, drop in, drop in. Okay. And now I'm going to use the arm of the leg that's back. I'm going to imagine, now that I've dropped in, like we were saying, you want to drop in. I'm now going to imagine that there's a pathway coming up from deep inside the leg, up through the psoas, along the front of the spine, up through the lung and into the arm. And I'm going to imagine as I touch the chair or the side of the sofa, I'm going to let this length all the way through happen, but I'm going to use touching the chair as a way of making the pathway from finger to toes and toes to fingers. You'll be surprised. Don't stretch, don't push, don't do anything deep. Just let this open, this hip extension, and let the continuation of those muscles that climb up from the leg onto the front and sides of the lumbars become part of the tissue that carries up. And then we have the lift, and I'm going to just use the chair to be my lift, to be my lift, to be my lift, to be my lift. Long, long, long. And come undone. And just folding back. So these hip flexory lengthening things are a great moment to say that you try to find your way. That's why I'm showing. In fact, I never really showed very much in classes where we're all together, but I need to show. And it's I'm learning lots of things about teaching while being inside the pose. But and then I'm using language, often it's metaphors, because you may have a similar pelvis to femur disposition that I have, which is one where the pelvis naturally, this stone here, naturally tips forward. I'm exaggerating, right? Or you may be someone whose pelvis sits between the femurs, much more back. So this whole thing will look and feel different. And if you were more here, you would also teach it differently somehow if you weren't aware of the range of pattern. So because I'm more here and I do a kind of hip extension different from the way you would do it if you live more here, and they're both beautiful and fine, be aware. So we're looking and playing and exploring, but your way of being put together may be quite different from what I'm doing. So here we are, letting the knee be a little bit over, the knee be over that heel. And I'm using the chair as a support for my hands so that I can drop in on the wave of the breath. I just notice. Dropping in. Of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, but usually the out breath is a returning to oneself, a deflating, whereas an in-breath, which has an extension quality to it, is a going out in the world, an inspiration. So I inspire and then I expire. So just as you breathe out, just noticing the sense of weight and dropping in, feeling the foot, feeling the back knee. Okay, so something let go even more. My back knee went back. So I have the safety of my right hand, but I'm just going to start to reach forward to the chair bit that's in front of me. And so by touching, I open up this pathway all the way through, and I open up the powerful binding of that back leg coming up to pelvis and onto spine. And I just allow I think this was helpful, yeah. I just allow the top of the chair to let me, you don't want to go so far that the front leg just turns out like that. Keep it nearby and long from toe to fingers, long from toe to fingers. Don't push into the pelvis, but you'll feel the power of all of that binding as you settle deeper and deeper. And on the breath, there is release, and I undo, finding the ground and then lengthening and opening, lengthening and opening. And going back. And coming back. So I can feel the whole thing is easier, and I can feel my pattern that I'm more like this. And so that's wonderful. When you start to feel that your body spirals more this way or more that way, it means that all of that sleeve tension and holding and symmetricalizing from the eyes, that's settled down, and that's something much deeper, which is the deep life of your spine that doesn't go through the efferent shaping visual part of my posturizing, but is very deep. It goes from the deep little brains in the muscles, the spindles, directly to the deep life of the spine and back. It doesn't pass through what's called the body image so much. It's much more spontaneous, and so and that's nice, you know, that's nice. So we don't need to always correct to symmetry. I think it's more wonderful to work in such a way that we discover which way we're spiraling, and then we can balance that out. But we're not whitewashing over it, which causes strain to be swallowed, you know, and then we have a problem. I want the body to decompensate out and to find its freedom. Yeah. I'm just going to go forward a little bit. Very nice. So this will be completely different for you, but I just in terms of accidents of perception, I just realized something. It's not something I don't know, but there is a torsional issue and an injury down here for me, which is all more or less mostly good. But there is a relationship between a holding that I felt, I mentioned earlier, and a jaw tension. And if you look at my neck, a tendency, much more when I was younger, to be a little bit here. I mean, I do have a Sicilian back. So I think if I didn't do any yoga, you know, I would be here like this, which I see in my family. But nonetheless, there is this, and it's a behavioral thing about growing up and being seen by people and all of that. So I just was feeling as I let go and this kind of got space and I bent forward, I could feel this world of jaw and rib 1 and 2 tension, which is mine, you know, and I don't need to judge it or run out of the room screaming, but it's so interesting. It's so interesting. And of course, releases of life and breath and movement around the sacrum always go together with releases around the floor of the mouth and the jaw and the occlusion and freedom of the structure, which is never independent of ribs 1 and 2 and clavicle. And you know, this is all mobile and it seems, you know, what can happen up there? It's extraordinary that different types of traffic jams we have through here and then coming up into here, and how that maps here. And so often when we sit for meditation, we feel there's a problem here and there's a problem there. We feel them together, struggling. Okay, so we don't need the chair. Don't need the chair. So let's see. I think I'm gonna turn a little more this way. I'm gonna turn like that. And I'm gonna take a step, like we did with the chair. You don't wanna leave the verticality over your back foot. The minute you do, you've entered another domain of yoga poses, which is starting to be the warrior poses and the lunges. And here, I just want to play with the beginning of the triangle poses, which we overcomplicate. So I'm going to stay over this leg. I'm going to stay over this leg, and I'm just going to let my other leg go forward. Yeah. Now, we've done this lots of times, so let's just review. I could make a rotation towards my back leg where everything is practically happening down in my ankles and knees. So all of me turns, except way down there, there's a lot of torque and a bit there, right? So I've done a kind of ankle torquey pose, and I could go the other way, and it could all be down there in my ankles, which is fine, as long as you don't irritate your knee. Okay, so let's just do that. It's way down there. I'm stuck in the mud, and I'm really turning, and everything else is practically remaining in the relationship it was when I was forward. Same here. Yeah, okay. Now we're not going to do that. Now we're going to let the foot and the legs and the way the legs come up through the pelvis that we've been working on and up into the lumbars, let's say up to the belly button. Doesn't matter if your back leg is turning out a bit. If you want to be more fundamentalist and have parallel feet, that's fine, but stay natural. So this lower triangle up to the belly button, that is going to stay as it is, looking forward, let's say. Feet, knees, groins, belly button. Now put your hands on your lower ribs. Okay, now you're going to make a mild lifting of the lower ribs. Mild but delicious lifting of the lower ribs. And I'm going to turn my lower ribs, my torso, my elbows, my neck and head towards the back leg. And because we've talked about it, I'm going to let from my belly button to my feet stay where it is. So I'm not going to turn everything. Just going to lift my torso and turn. Yeah. Come back. I'm going to lift my ribs and turn to the front leg. Come back. I'm going to lift and turn to the back leg. And then I'm just going to put my arms out in the direction of my shoulders. And my arms are wings that lift me. So my arms, they're lifting me. And I can feel it's a struggle in here. So I just do a little less. Yeah. Triangle going down, triangle coming up is lifting. And so they turn in relation to each other. This is why this is such a famous pose and such a wonderful series of poses. And don't complicate it. Just think of triangles. This triangle up to the belly button, and then this triangle. And these two triangles turn in relation to each other. One way and then the other way. And the lifting of the arms is essential. because the verticalizing human being needs to lift the torso up off its lumbers. Otherwise, the lumbers are kind of on each other, and then we can't get the full possibility of rotation and counter-rotation. That's it. And then I go the other way, and I go the other way, and I could swing, and I can feel my feet participating in this rooting and winging, down in the lower triangle and up in the upper triangle. And taking a break. And then, what did I do? My right leg was back. So I'm going to put my left leg back. Oh no, maybe it's better from the other side. Okay, so I'm standing over my left leg, and I'm just going to let my right leg go forward. Left leg, my right leg goes forward. Triangle from the belly button down, or you can play with, making deep swivelly movements in ankles and a little bit in the knee. But then the whole triangle roots, and then I'm lifting up. I'm lifting up, lifting my ribs. Lifting, letting these diagonal structures and horizontal structures support me in this rotation which starts to come out. That's it. So it's not that I've rotated and ground my lumbers together. I've lifted. Yeah, this right hip, feet. It's the intelligence of the feet and the freedom of the head and jaw and the arms. Yeah. So this is why Vanda and Mary Stewart, who I studied with, this is why they started to play with the hand position. Because if you always pronate your arm, you're always going to get a feeling. And if you always supinate your arm, palms up, you're always going to get a different feeling. So it's nice to know that this is a huge difference to do it this way, palms up, the whole soft of my arm up, or palms down. And then you can even play by bending, letting the elbows go away from each other as you bend. Yeah. So we'll do it again very quickly, but just so you can play with the different patterns. So remember, I was telling you the pelvis, your pelvic basin to femurs could be more tilted forward, more tilted back, which is going to mean that your femurs may be more externally rotated or internally rotated. So there's a signature there. And when things are congruent, movement will feel good for you. And it may be different from what your yoga teacher is doing, or the neighbor across the street in the living room that you're competing with because they're watching and doing the yoga too. So there is this kind of pattern down there. But there is a much more mobile pattern, but also here. So you may, just to simplify, you may be more in extension and external rotation, just to keep it very simple. So you may be more here, or you may be more in flexion and more internally rotated. And very often we counterbalance. So I'm a lot here, so I brace myself down. I'm down, so I pull myself up. So when we're doing triangle poses, we are actively playing with these signatures. They're all beautiful, nothing horrible about it, but it's nice if you know. So you can see that up here, I'm a little bit like that. And if I'm getting excited or upset, I get even more like that. So it's true, therefore, that when I'm playing, my tendency is to go like that and to lift up too quickly and to de-radicate myself, So I find it very helpful just to turn, to help myself stay I'm up and I'm in my pattern, and then I just rotate my arms down, and I can even release my head a little bit. And then I feel that my back starts to get long and to breathe, and then it's wonderful. Then it's wonderful, then I can come back. And if you're very here, you know, then you could just turn your palms up and look a little bit more at the sky, and you'll start to feel that you have other colors. Other colors. Yeah. So let's just play with that. Let's start by standing on the right leg, step forward, standing on my right leg, step forward, and I'm just going to turn towards the back leg. See, I want to be up here, so I'm just going to open behind my shoulder blades, and then I'm going to turn the other way. Projecting out through my fingers, huge feet with the weight, playful. And then I'm just going to go a little faster through the rotation. Very nice. Then I'm going to step forward. So now my left leg is back. And I'm going to go. And the other way. So just to close, you know, what we've done is the smallest variation of triangle pose. But of course, you can take the step bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually it's so big that you've come off the back foot a lot, and it starts to be the front foot that has your weight, and you're doing other things. So what I want to do is just take a bigger step. We're going to bend the front knee. Going to let the leg turn out, but not too much. So keep it kind of pointing forward, because that will wake up this the under ankle here. So you want to keep that like that. And we're going to bend. And by bending, you'll be able to feel how far to go. You don't want to go so far that you're no longer on the back foot. You want to be just kind of where I am, where I feel like I can reach back here and reach back into that heel and wake up the foot and open the whole of the back leg. And I keep reaching back while I actually lean my elbow on my front knee. But you see, I'm not gone on the front leg. Yee. I'm very much back, 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 and over. Yeah, there we go. So I'm leaning on my front knee, and I'm opening my whole leg and hip. And then I'm just going to play. I'm just going to let the arm go up, or I can put it on my sacrum, or I can look down at my foot. And I'm opening. The knees are going away from each other. Oh, the breath. And we're going to do the other side. The step, the back leg, let the toes point forward a bit. That's it. You know, you have to kind of fiddle. That's it. And then I went too far. Leaning back. So you can see that here I'm forward, but here my pelvis is back, and yet my leg can come forward. Yet that can come forward, but I'm back. So you need to play with that. Play with that. Sacrum, elbow on the knee, looking down at the foot, heels, and then opening up. Play. And again, you know, if you needed support, you've got it. Support is right there. Opening. Ooh, there was a click, because I was probably using the chair. Touching the spine. Come back. amazing. Normally I feel I'm on the outside of my legs and the outside of my ankles, but right now I feel I'm much more down the center here. So just taking in what's changing, what feels good, how the weight and the wave of the breath and the oscillatory natural movements of the body talk to each other. Great. So if you have a few more minutes, and just this session is closing now, but I would encourage you, if you just have a few more minutes, to lie on the floor with your arms wide and a little support under the head if you need it. And then just let yourself, as you lie on the floor, let the head wobble, soften the tongue, swallow, and just allow whatever's been happening through the pelvis and legs, spine, arms and shoulders, let it just release out also through the neck and head. So you're lying and you just give yourself 5 minutes just to be on your back and quiet. So thank you, everyone. Just want to remind those of you that we've started a wonderful series online here through Bonnevaux with a very well-known doctor called Barry White, who's a meditator and working on something he calls contemplative medicine. And it's for medical practitioners and ordinary lay people to come to a new vision of how medicine and health could be. But he's started a series of evening talks. If you go to our website, you can see this. And we're offering a very inexpensive chance to subscribe. You can subscribe for each talk at a certain price, but you can buy the whole thing, get half of them free, I think, and you have lifetime subscription to these talks. And we're also starting a retreat next week, which is going to be part of 8 retreats through the year, where Lawrence Freeman will be teaching about our meditation practice and the journey that we go on, which is very helpful because it gives us markers that help us understand what the individual practice of that session is. Sit down, sit still, pay attention, but then how that can map out over a year and a lifetime as we begin to get to know our distractedness and the nature of our mind and the quality of our heart, and we begin to change, and people start to tell us that they notice that the fruits of meditation are showing up in our lives. So there's 8 of these, and so go have a look. See you next week. Enjoy your few minutes lying on your back. Bye-bye.